What is going on, everybody? Bobby Fi here. We're doing our daily live before lock show. Hopefully, Rody will be joining me momentarily. I messaged him, but I think he'll be here shortly. We got an interesting slate here. There's a lot of ways to go. I feel like it's a good scripter slate. It's a good one to play 150. At the same time, it's harder to have definitive things because I like a lot of things very much that I think are going to be somewhat owned, but somewhat not. One thing I'm not doing is playing Giannis on Draftkings. If it bites me, it bites me. I am playing him in a good portion of my FanDuel lineups, but I think there's plenty of ways to go and get those other points. I mean, literally, Giannis could go out there and score 80, and I think we're still going to be okay. Rody's popping in right now, so I'm going to let him in. Rody, what's up, man? We're actually live. And
hey, what's up, man? You guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Everybody hear Rody? Good. I was just talking about the slate and sort of the way that builds work and everything today. And I was saying on DraftKings is very different than FanDuel for me. I'm playing a lot of Giannis on FanDuel, not really playing him at all on DraftKings today. I completely understand it if people want to. It makes perfect sense. It's a great matchup. It's like the nut matchup. I am mixing in some Drew Holiday and some Chris Middleton on DraftKings, but I think that that's like the main spend up thing that I'm kind of avoiding. And I'm focusing more on the Fred VanVleets, the Toronto guys, Siakam, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I have some Murray Morant lineups, and just trying to get those, 60 fantasy points. And even if Giannis puts up 75 or 80, I think we're still okay if you get the other guys right, because I expect there to be a lot of big nights tonight, especially with these with some of these totals we have out here. How are you building, and sort of what are the guys you're focusing on tonight?
As you guys know, I'm just getting into it. As always, I start a little late. We had that 30-minute build process, know. But yeah, I mean, Giannis is popping. I'll go through some low and plays that I'm liking here already from looking at projections. I see, John Morant's popping a little bit. He's a little bit lower owned for the slate size, 15%. I mean, he's not like the 30 where, Shai's at 30% or whatever.
Right.
Sabonis. I know some people were asking about Sabonis and Fox in the chat earlier today in Discord. Make sure you guys get in there. We can talk in there all the time. We're always talking.
Yep.
How do you like that combo and run it back with Shai even in that? Like Sabonis and Fox?
Yeah, Fox, I really like. I'm not playing them both together, to be honest, but I don't mind it. It's a good matchup for both sides. I know that statistically OKC's defense has been really good since since right before the All-Star break. I think it's more of an aberration and more the teams they've played and things like that. I think in this game should be, a little bit wild, but I really do like one of Sabonis, preferably Sabonis for me, but I like Fox too, so I don't want to just X him out of there. I just happen to like the other guys better. I like the Toronto guys, and so for me, I really like Shai. I'm a little nervous because I don't feel like I get Shai wrong all the time. I just feel like playing him at Mega Chalk at 9,600, his usage rate, obviously everything makes perfect sense, and the matchup and all that stuff. It's just there's something about it that he'll just like disappear for like 6 minutes at a time, and maybe that's more me just being biased because of the old Shai. But I do think John Morant's a great pivot. And I love nobody's going to play DeJounte Murray. I think he's going to be popular on FanDuel. I don't think anybody's going to play him on DraftKings. And I think I'm going to make sure to force in one of my big buy-ins a John Morant, DeJounte Murray, because I feel like if that game stays close, they could go nuts. And there is one way to pivot around Shai tonight. One other thing that I like doing, and that would be to play a guy who I don't usually go crazy for because he literally cost me $150,000 one night. No, that's not really why. But I think Trey Mann might be a little bit under projected. I mean, you look at this guy and he's put up 34 or more, 34.74 or 5 was the least in his last 4 games. With the other guys out, he definitely eats up the rest of the usage. Between he and Shai, it's like 68% of the usage. So I think that Trey Mann is the guy you try to play if you're going to just avoid Shai. And Trey Mann will get a little bit of ownership, but I think at 5,400 for a guy who's putting up consistently and honestly worse matchups, 30 to 40, I think he's a really good play that I need to get more of right now. I also think Tyreese Halliburton is a phenomenal play. I think he's going to actually have plenty of ownership, but they can't play everybody, right? I think this is going to leave the Toronto guys a little bit lower owned than they should be. And I want to get, a piece of that. So again, you find your guards that you like, and there's like 6 of them that are good spend ups, and I'm sort of rotating them, but my favorites are Halliburton, Shai. I love VanVleet still. I prefer Siakam in that game, so I'm happier to go that direction if I have to. And I think you can get, a slightly different build if you want to play the DeJounte versus Morant thing. I think you're talking about like 1 to 2% of lineups, and there's no reason why those guys couldn't be the best. I don't want to say point per dollar of guys over 9K. I think they have the chance to do that. So that's where I'm at with my builds right now. How about you? How about some other things you're looking at?
Yeah, I mean, I do like that Murray price, or not price, but ownership at 6%. He might come in higher. I love that game if he's going to be low owned. He's got massive ceiling. We talk about that a lot in my videos. Is getting some of these guys in with ceiling like John Morant, DeJounte Murray. Fred VanVleet's got that same type of upside. Well, we've seen Gary Trent also in that same Toronto game go off. And he's only 6'2" against Brooklyn. He's projecting well, and he's not awfully high in ownership at 15%. Yep. You said Drew Holiday, he's coming in at like 8%. So we got a lot of decent guard play today. I think, Drew, Fox, Middleton in there. You can play a guard, shooting guard. Buddy Hield, 7K. He's coming in quite high ownership. What's your thoughts on him?
If anytime Buddy Hield is going to play 38 minutes, I'm always going to have interest because he can. I mean, if he gets hot, if he gets like reasonably hot, it's 45 to 55 in this new situation. We haven't really gotten used to him in these kind of situations. But you look at his numbers, I mean, he hasn't really had the one game that he might have kind of burned people. He played 40 minutes. He was 6 for 19 and 1 of 13 from 3. Now, if he goes 1 of 13 for three, I'm going to lose with that guy anyway. He still almost gets 5X with that. You know what I mean? I really do like
it. Yeah.
But again, it's a guy I usually, in the Sacramento days, I would avoid at high ownership because of how high variance the situation was in the minutes. Those minutes are not high variance right now. We've seen him play an absolutely a bazillion minutes. There's just other guys I sort of like a little bit better, even with all that stuff said about him. But I am playing. I think I have him at about 25%, which is probably about with the field. So that's where I am on him. Where are you standing on these cheapies that are going to be really chalky? And I guess some of it's going to depend on whether Caleb Martin plays, because that's going to make Vincent even more popular. But where do you stand on the cheap guys today?
Yeah, I just want to say one thing on Buddy Hield. He is priced up a little more on 7K. So if he does shoot bad and fails, and if he is really owned almost 30%, you could get some serious advantage by not playing him. But I do see why play him at 38 minutes. So on the value plays over to the value, Gabe Vincent's going to looks like he's going to be chalky at 32%. He's okay.
My guess is on that 32%. I think you can add 32% to that on the high buy-ins. I think he's going to be 60.
Yeah. We're forced to kind of play these guys in the high buy-ins. I mean, this is just too good of a play. That 38% smash. You got Lamb and for the Kings there. He's getting 24 minutes, but he's only 3.8 for his price tag. I got another value. You could go to Sykes if you want to get off like Halliburton or Hield, kind of cheap. I mean, he's projecting okay, but only 20 minutes, so the upside's kind of limited. You got Goodwin still at 5.2 for Cleveland. He's been getting a lot of minutes. We'll probably have to get him in there. We're gonna have to mix and match some of these cheap guys like Goodwin, even Bruce Brown for that Brooklyn game. He's projecting pretty good. And the SF positions usually small forward positions usually weak on DraftKings. I don't know how it looks today. You got Hield, you got Butler, Brown, some of the top plays, Middleton, Barnes. So yeah, I mean, people are going to be reaching probably for some of those guys like Bruce Brown and Lamb could play there. So one of those guys end up in their SF position or Buddy. So that's why those guys' ownership I think is a little bit higher.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, you got a lot of some good value there, but I don't really see the 3K guy. Like a couple SQ nights over the weekend, I don't think Bobby played much, but we had some 3K guys. We had DeMarcus Cousins even going off for 41 last night, and Dwight Howard last night, another 3K value play. We had a lot of 3K guys, so we're not going to get this. So, I can see, like you said, Giannis is a great play. He's like top on the slate, but like you're going to have a hard time getting to him. And I kind of like some of these mix and match, three upper 3K, 4K guys and 5K guys, with some of like Sabonis at 9 or, John Moran at 10 or Shea at 9 and a 7K, Buddy, you might want to mix and match some of those over, getting up to 12K for Giannis a little bit, but he is the smash play of the game. But I like these 9K guys, Halliburton, Pascal Siakam at 8.4 at only 16% owned. I mean, I think Bobby mentioned him, so those are all good plays to mix and match with those. You're going to need a Lamb, you're going to need a Brown, a couple 5K guys in there. I think it's kind of where my builds are going to fall today.
Yeah, I feel like if you put Siakam at this price 2 weeks ago in this matchup, he would be the chalkiest player on the slate. Just because of recency bias and the fact that they got absolutely thrashed in the last 2 games, and they had the one more before the break too. So his numbers don't look right recently. But I mean, it's a bump. First of all, it's a boost up for him. I would play him at 9,400. So I of course, if I'm going to play him at 9,400, I'm going to play him at 8,400, especially when he's not getting the ownership. So I really like the Siakam play. I do like Van Vliet also, and I like Scotty Barnes. I think one of those guys, at least, if not 2 or 3 of them, guys from Toronto go off, and that's going to open up a little bit more value. And guys, I'll get to all the questions in a minute, but I'm going to say just some of the guys who I really like for value.
Yeah, Van Vliet, I think's out actually. It says not very likely to play was the update we just got.
I didn't get that note. That's
5 minutes
huge
ago.
note.
Yeah, okay, Trent and Siakam just skyrocketed in projections.
Well, I'm going to have to edit everything. Yeah, Trent and Siakam then are going to be your guys.
That kind of sucks because I like Trent at 6'2" before, and you can play him at the small forward position. So I kind of like that.
It's going to be interesting to see what their starting lineup is, because that is a really, really, really big deal. Because now with no Anunoby and him out, I just didn't get that note yet. That's going to open up a lot more on the Toronto side. So let's see how the starting lineup. Actually, I don't know if we'll have time to see how the starting lineup shakes out. But I think that I would still rank it Siakam 1, Trent 2, and Barnes 3. And I think that it's really close between Barnes and Trent, actually. Barnes will essentially play the point guard position, but they'll run a lot through Siakam in the front court. Trent is always a little shooting reliant, so his high ownership is always a little bit of a turnoff. I was into him too before, and I still like him, but I don't want to play him at 40% ownership. You know what I mean? I'd rather play him at the 15 or 20 that he was going to get, even though I still think he's a good play. I just don't think it's not like there's every route he has to get there. I do think it's going to be interesting to see who they start, because if Boucher and Birch might come into the mix, but then you've got Achua and Thad Young, that's a really tough situation. I want to wait till some things update a little bit for me, because I'm a little behind on my updates on the projections. I feel like they're still like in between. They don't seem quite right to me. So yeah, that's not quite right. But Boucher, I think, is actually going to become a pretty strong play, assuming that he does end up starting, which I think he will. The Goodwin thing is very interesting, because it's not full value. Yeah, he was 2 of 11 and he put up 23, but he did play 38 minutes last game out. I don't feel like he can be on the court and do absolutely nothing for a long time. It's not like they need him to initiate offense. They can run their offense in the half court through Markkanen, Mobley, Love, and Cedi Osman, who's a better initiator than he is. So I'm actually sided a little bit more with Osman than I am with Goodwin, but I do want to get back to this Toronto thing, because that's going to change everything. That makes some of the other guys a little bit less interesting for me. Maybe I can come off of some of my love for some of these other 9,600 players, because I think I want to prioritize at least one Toronto player in every lineup, and maybe 2. That's a lot to be missing for them. That's a huge portion of their offense between he and OG. I'm going to get into some questions, because I think we've got a few that I just wanted to get to. Who do we like better? This is going to lead to Toronto. Lamb or Achua in the utility spot on DK? I would have said Lamb right 10 minutes ago before I saw this news. I think it's really close between them now. But the problem you run into with Toronto here is you have one big on the other side, really, Drummond. Everybody else can sort of be. Siakam can play the 5 for them if they want to. Not to mention that they have Birch, Boucher, Achua, and Thad Young to fill out 1.5 positions, because Siakam can play the 3 through 5, and even Scotty Barnes can play the 4. So it's really tricky to know. I really would have to see a starting lineup before I want to fully commit. That's a tough one for me. I think that I would right now still say Jeremy Lamb, but if Achua is starting, the answer is definitely Precious. How would you rank those 2?
Sorry, you're talking. Let me get my screen switched over.
Lamb and Achua.
Let me see Achua's price. 4.9.
No, on DraftKings.
Oh yeah, I'm
FanDuel.
Yeah, I was looking at that FanDuel question for the guy in the chat. All right, here we go. RGV Scotty Barnes. Achua's not coming in great. 24 minutes. He is 3.6 though. Versus Lamb. Let me see. I'm still getting a lot of Lamb in the recent update. over him. But I mean, if you factor, they're about the same minutes, a little bit same price. I mean, it's a good pivot. I mean, Lamb's a small forward is probably why he'll still get some utilization. You'll have to burn a spot for power or center with Precious Achua, but it's a cheap pivot. I mean, if we're looking at centers today, we have, Siakam can play center, but there's not really a true center there. Giannis can play. Sabonis is true only center eligible. Jared Allen, which I don't mind at 12%. He's getting some love. Bam's kind of a sleeper there at 6%. If you guys are looking for an MME GPB guy, I don't mind that Chicago game. I mean, I have liked Chicago all year, but they don't project very well, so I don't know if there'd be a good comeback in that game. But
horrible matchup.
Bobby Portis is in the game against Charlotte, and usually centers tear that up. He's coming in pretty low on 11%. So you got some true centers, but I don't mind grabbing a value guy there if Precious comes in and he gets a little bit more bumped to his production. He'll pop a little bit more. Ceiling of 30 fantasy points. You can play him at 3.6. He's really the only guy that's low, or Thad Young, like you said, as well. Those are the only two cheap guys really at the center spot today.
I don't put any emphasis. I know you guys put emphasis on this. I don't put any emphasis on this ceiling stuff. It's just absolute nonsense, and somebody's making it up. I mean, Precious, what did he score in the last game? 37 fantasy points. So his ceiling is really 30. No way. You know what I mean? Like I never believe in that, but I do believe that he is. He's more. It's unlikely that he'll get to that high. I think Siakam is the main thing for me. Like I think he's the best, probably the best actual play. I think he's a better play than these other guys are.
I think Siakam's probably one of the top plays on the slate. Him and Gary Trent probably. I think Gary Trent's just so good of a play because of his price at 6.2. I mean,
I wasn't planning on fully stacking that game, but I think that game is more asking to be stacked now. And the guy who I actually think that you can put on the other side at a cheap price, who also has small forward eligibility, and just ignore the numbers. We know there's a ceiling. We saw him put up 40 the other day. A lot of these numbers are with Kyrie in there, and he's just had some really, really, really awful shooting nights. I think he's shooting like 20-something% this month. But Patty Mills can get hot, and he's the lowest owned of that bunch. So I don't mind mixing in some Patty Mills. I do like Curry, who's going to have ownership. I like Brown and Johnson, who are all going to have ownership. I'm not as into LMA, but I don't mind it. I would rather play Patty. I'm getting some Patty Mills and Drummond in those stacks that way to differentiate from some of the chalk while maintaining the game stack that I really like now because of the limited bodies. And it's a really good way to go. I do want to just keep going with the questions real quick, if you don't mind. Lamb, we got that one. I have one big Mo Bamba lineup on FanDuel to answer the Mo Bamba question, but it may go by the wayside shortly because of where we're at. Do you have any Mo Bamba interest? I know he's been terrible and all the things, but I still think that at some point he's going to break a slate at 4,500 on FanDuel.
On FanDuel, let me see.
Okay. I mean, he's not like an awesome. It's not like an awesome.
I mean, he has positive projection for his price, so I mean, he's viable. Wendell Carter's probably a better play on DraftKings. I don't mind him over there. But Mo Bamba's better on FanDuel, so a lot better on FanDuel.
Kobe says that he feels like Dragic's minutes are underprojected. I don't think so at all. Steve Nash came out and said that he expects Dragic to play 14 minutes or so. So I don't want to do that one personally. The Fred VanVleet thing, what a bummer. That's going to really build my lineups for me, I guess. SGA or Murray is a question that people have in general. I think the answer is clearly SGA for cash, but I like Murray for tournament. And that has to be a FanDuel question because that's the only place at the same price. How about on FanDuel? What are you doing, SGA or Murray?
SGA or Murray? That's a good question. And we got... SGA is at one of the top. He's a little projected over. So if you're talking cash, SGA for sure. Murray's going to come in a little lower ownership, but not much. I mean, 34 to 42%. They're both high. They're both cheap. I like both of them today. I mean, they're both in smash spots, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Thoughts on Chris Duarte on DraftKings? Any thoughts for you? Because as of the rotations they're running, I can just say, like, unless he's somehow back in the starting lineup again and they haven't released their starting lineup yet, I'm not going to do it. I like the idea of it, but I can't do it coming out. I can't do Duarte today, especially on a back-to-back coming off of an injury. I don't even know how much he'll play. Buddy Hield has eaten up all the minutes. I just don't know if I can quite commit to the Duarte thing, but I don't mind it. It's just like meh for me. How about you?
Yeah, I thought he might get some more love today just because, I think Lance Stephenson's out now. So, where are they going to go to? They got Hield and Halliburton, but, someone in that game, I think is going to have to pop. I mean, you could take your shots on a bunch of them. I think, like I said, Sykes at 3K might be a 3K guy that we got. We don't have many today. So, I mean, he's possible. Duarte fills that small forward position. If we do get word he's going to play a little bit more, I used him a little bit earlier this season, but he's definitely not popping today. But if you're doing like the large field stuff or like the fadeaway, I would have maybe a couple lineups with him if you're 150 or something.
Yeah, I'm personally not going to have any, unless Sykes is starting, I'm not going to have any Sykes or Washington. I think they're both pretty bad plays in my opinion. And if they get there, it's going to be through some sort of randomness. I just don't see how the run's going to break down like that unless they are starting personally, or unless, one of them gets hot, which would probably be Washington, not Sykes, because he'll actually shoot the ball. But I think Duarte is an interesting large field tournament play. I just don't think that it's doing.
Sykes is pretty bad.
You asked about Precious, man. I think again, I would like to see the starting lineup. If he's in the starting lineup, obviously he's a strong play. I don't know for sure that they'll do that. We've seen Kem Birch start. We've seen Precious start some. They do have Thad Young, who they definitely got because they wanted a guy like him. So, and they don't like to play Boucher a ton of minutes. So it's a little, I like it, but I don't feel like at the ownership he's going to get, if he's starting, it'll be great. And then you'll get really low ownership if he's not, but I feel worried about his minutes. It's just it's a very weird play because I feel like it's a tournament play that's going to have cash game ownership. That's what worries me about that one. Got always something right when we get on air where they're like the whole slate changes completely. But all those other, Siakam, Gary Trent, and Scotty Barnes are phenomenal plays. The one who's going to project the best might be Trent. I don't think that Trent is an automatic just crush here. I think he had like a 10 fantasy point game and like a 20 fantasy point game without Fred VanVleet already. So he is a little more scoring dependent. And again, people might think about him, as the point guard. He's not really a point guard. Like Scotty Barnes is more of a point guard than he is. But he also has a massive, he's going to get 40 plenty of the time. I just don't think he should be projected to get 40. That seems ridiculous to me, to be honest.
Yeah, he's had some bad games in there, but he did almost have a 60 the other day, but he did have a 7 and a 20 and a 16. Right. He had a 20 against a really bad team who was shot.
But when you're playing him at 50% or 60% ownership and you're counting on him to go, shoot 6 out of 13 from 3 or something, look at all of his games that he has games. He gets hot from 3. The assist numbers are very low. The rebounding numbers are very low. He needs to have the only games he has big games are when he hits a ton of threes and when he gets a bunch of steals. Not to say those things couldn't happen tonight, but at this ownership, I'm more inclined to be fading a guy like Gary Trent, because it's just, the ownership is just so crazy high. Now I'm going to have some of them, but I might have like 10% versus the 50+% that he's going to be owned. I just really want to, I should say that the 10% I'll have of them will be in game stacks pretty much exclusively.
I'm definitely going to have a game stack probably of them for sure. But I can see myself not totally having a ton of them either.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just like his price so much though, man. That's 6'2" for a guy with that upside. You got to have a little bit of them. Don't just clear out fade him, guys.
Yeah. Eric, I saying Giannis something to consider. I am fading Giannis on DraftKings. I don't have any Giannis lineups currently on DraftKings. I think it's a good play. I think there's plenty of other good plays, and I have not found the need to force Giannis in on DraftKings. I really like the idea of trying to play one of Holiday or Middleton, though, at low ownership, because Giannis is at high price. What's Giannis? The thing is, like, even if he gets 75, it doesn't even guarantee that he's on the winning lineup. Now, it's probably more likely because so many people are playing him. But it's like there's so many other routes to 50 and 60 from the 8 and 9K guys. Siakam can get 60. He's 8,400. He's 3,600 less than Giannis, and those savings matter today because this value is a little bit. It's not like the great value. It's Gabe Vincent, Doug McDermott, Devontae Kakak, and Romeo Langford ruled out. Okay, I thought McDermott was going to play at least, but yeah. Middleton and Drew, you could play in the same lineup. I think I actually do have a Giannis and Drew on FanDuel. with some run back on LaMelo on FanDuel, just in one lineup, because I think that there's an outside chance. Charlotte's already beaten Milwaukee twice this year, and everybody thinks the game of blood. It probably will, but I do think that if they stay close, it should have something to do with LaMelo. All right, guys, rapid fire questions, because we got 5 minutes, and I got to finish building my lineups because a lot of them have Fred VanVleet in them. Is Caleb Martin worry you about Vincent's minutes? If Caleb Martin was he officially announced in while we were on air? Because if he was, I actually will play a little bit of Caleb Martin. I think Jimmy Butler is the de facto real point guard.
Yeah, Caleb Martin expected to play.
Yeah, okay. I would play a little bit of Caleb Martin if you needed the extra 400 from Vincent. And Vincent's ownership is going to go down a little bit now, so at least it's not quite as gamble of a play. And Gabe Vincent, hey, he's my guy, UCSB. But Max Struss and Tyler Herro is obviously a different price tier, but Max Struss and Duncan Robinson both are feel kind of gross plays, but that's what the Heat do. One of these guys can go out and make 8 threes every game. I talk about this all the time. All these guards can go out there and do that, and Jimmy Butler is totally unselfish, has no problem setting them up for open threes all game long, and who's ever hot may be on the court. So Gabe Vincent's minute projection of 34 or whatever we have it at, whatever it was at earlier, I think that's a little bit too generous. I think there's a chance that if one of these guys gets hot, you might see Vincent down in the low 20s range, just depending on how the game goes, of course. So that does feel a little bit funny. I don't know what that means, a funkier Eric. I don't know what this guy's talking about. All right, let's see. Anything else of priority? I think you really want to target that Brooklyn-Toronto game hard. That's what I'm saying. That's pretty much my strongest belief, and I think that the Toronto, just how much I like them, is making me want to get a run back on the other side. And they've got some guys who are going to be popular, but Patty Mills and Andre Drummond are not going to be especially popular, and I really like the upside for both those guys here tonight. So I also think Cam Thomas as a large field play is a really, really good large field play. And obviously the regular Seth Curry, Bruce Brown are all a solid play. So I think that's a very, very good game stack. Still, and you could do it cost effectively to where you could still get 2 solid back and forths. Maybe if you do it on the cheap end, you could get a Shea. I mean, I'm looking at it right now, so you can get a Shea and a Fox if you wanted to, for argument's sake, along with that game stack, which I really like, something like that. That's what I'm probably going to end up doing some of. All right. James Johnson. I like James Johnson. Okay. I feel like he's a little bit less interesting to me now because I'd rather take a gamble with the Toronto guys in the upside, but he's still I still am going to have at least 20% James Johnson. Rody, you said he's okay, right?
Yeah, I just responded in the chat. He's a positive projection. He's got a smash, and he's a viable play. He should get some minutes around 29. We got him projected at here, so I think he's viable in this. Someone's got to be a big. He's looked good in some minute roles he's got this year. I mean, I wouldn't expect 50 out of the guy, but he'll give you something.
Yep. All right. Anything else, guys, before we get out of here, because we have to finish building our lineups. And I'm a big fan of. I think we should move this show like 15 minutes earlier, and I'm going to try to do that, whether it's me starting and then Sheets coming along or whatever it is, because it's just too much right before, and I feel stumbling by my lineups. I know it's better to have more information, but it's really hard to get all of it done at the same time. And I think we can do a longer show and maybe be more effective in going through each situation. All right. There's a lot of negative talk here. All right, there you go. There it is. All right. Any thoughts on WCJ, Wendell Carter Jr.? I love Wendell Carter Jr. I think he's going to be overlooked. I don't know if I'm going to end up getting to as much of them because there's so many good plays, and it's hard to just not pay for Siakam at 1,000 more. But have you thought about Wendell Carter Jr. and any of the other Orlando Magic?
I just think there's so many good plays. I think Wendell Carter's viable though. I might have some of him. I kind of like that balanced build. Today, like some of these 5 to 8K guys, I really like some of them. So I think he fits that build.
Yep,
possible.
All right, guys. Well, good luck. We will be in the chat room. Does Sabonis with a blowout worry me? No. If it happens on the road in OKC, who's actually been playing just as well as anybody, I mean, as well as basically Sacramento is. I mean, they're not a whole bunch different, those two teams. So I'm not overly worried, but of course, blowouts could happen at any time. Any players from Memphis? I already said I like Ja and I like Bane. But I don't know how much of them I'm going to get. I'm going to get where I'm playing Ja. I'm going to run back with Murray just because I do think that game staying close would be necessary for Ja to really go reach his ceiling. How about you with the Memphis guys?
I didn't get the Bane's okay at 6'1". Yeah, he fits that 6 to 7 or 8K build kind of player. You know, one guy we haven't probably talked about, Steven Adams, has been playing pretty well just from a player perspective. He's only 6K at center. You know, we talked not many center options today, but I mean, you got some of these guys that are multi-positional forward as well. You can jam him in there. I like Ja a lot. I do like Ja, and I like Murray on the run back, and you can fit Bane and Adams in there, and a correlation maybe with Murray instead of having Ja. Do like Bane, Adams, and like a Murray type build, so you're not having two 9K guys in your lineup. If you want, that construction could work. I mean, I'm just letting you guys know.
Absolutely, or Kyle Anderson too. You could mix in as a 3,800 option as well.
Yeah, he's one of those value options that, you know, there's a lot of these guys that are projected today for like 24 minutes, kind of like all these guys kind of bundled together. So just kind of you can mix and match some of these different guys. Like Kyle Anderson would fit in that 24-minute build. Just hoping he gets more maybe or something. So,
yep. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to get out of here. I got to finish building my lineups, and I got to get Van Fleet out of a lot of them. We all build differently, but last one I'll answer is Halliburton versus Shea on FanDuel. Well, I like them both, and if you want the low ownership, you play Halliburton. If you want to play the good chalk, I think you play Shea. Anything different, Rody, between Halliburton and Shea?
I like Halliburton, but yeah, Shea's very good projected today. So,
yeah. All right. Well, Rody, thanks so much, man, for stepping in. Guys, good luck to everybody. And again, we will be in Discord all night, so we want to see some screenshots. Screenshot it up tonight and ask any questions you want, and we'll try to get to them as quick as possible. Try to tag me or Rody if you want us directly on those, and we'll get to them. Rody, thanks again, and good luck, everybody. Rody, what do you got?
Guys?